Buying a new phone these days isn't exactly easy. There are so many choices out there and they're all so similar to each other. Not to mention the marketing strategies used by most companies are a bit misleading. You see one thing in a presentation, by the time you actually get that product, well, it's not exactly as you hoped for. And the one thing that most new phones have in common is the high price. If you're looking to buy a flagship from Samsung or Apple, for example, you're looking at spending over $1,000. And let's be real, not everyone has $1,000 to spend, or not everyone wants to spend $1,000 for a phone. So what can you do? Well, you could buy a budget phone, but with many budget phones, there are some compromises, and compromises that some people aren't willing to do. So what else could you do? Well, you could buy an older phone, a phone that's like a year or 2 years old. And in many cases, those phones are actually half the price or less than half the price of a flagship. Take this OnePlus 9 for example. It so happens that I got this phone about 3 weeks ago, and this one is about half the price of a Samsung Galaxy S22. And this is in fact even cheaper than one of the latest Xiaomi devices that we got. This is the Xiaomi 12X. So this one is actually the more expensive device out of the two. So is this cheaper phone, the OnePlus 9, better than this Xiaomi 12X? Well, we're gonna find out in today's video. So I'm gonna be comparing these two phones and see which one is the actual better device and which one will offer the best value for your money. Now, for a video like this, I could have used any older phones. I could have used an older Samsung Galaxy S20 or a Xiaomi Mi 11 or any other phone that's a year or 2 years old, and now it sells for like half the price or even less than half its original price. The same kind of goes with this OnePlus 9, and since I got this one, I figured I might as well use this one. But this is a phone that now you can get for about $450, maybe $550 depending where you're buying it. So it does offer really good value, taking in consideration the specs that we have in this, mostly when compared to a new phone like the Xiaomi 12X. So let me turn this around, I'll show you the specs and we'll talk about them. So based on specs alone, the OnePlus 9 here is actually better than the Xiaomi 12X. This one is using the Snapdragon 888, where the Xiaomi 12X is using the Snapdragon 870. They both have 8 gigs of RAM, and in this situation, this one has 128 gigs of internal storage, and this one has 256 gigs of internal storage. I have here the scores that I got on the Antutu benchmark. So the OnePlus 9 gets a score of about 806,000, where the Xiaomi 12X gets a score of about 692,000. Now, both these scores are really good, don't get me wrong. So both devices are super quick. But this score for a phone that's over a year old is higher than this newer phone. And just to give you an example here, this is the latest Samsung Galaxy S22. So the score on this one isn't that much higher than the score that we get on a phone that's that old. So I just wanted to give you an example. And this would be the score that we would get on the Geekbench 5. So the multi-core score on the OnePlus 9 is 3600, the multi-core score on the Xiaomi 12X is 3200, and the multi-core score that we get on the Samsung Galaxy S22 is 3500. So the oldest phone out of the three actually gets a higher score than these two newer phones. So you can find a lot of older phones that are more powerful or equally powerful with a lot of new phones. Another thing that will kind of make you rethink buying a flagship these days is the charging speed for these devices. I included the S22 in here as well. So the OnePlus 9 here gets a 65 watt fast charger, so it supports 65 watt fast charging. The Samsung Galaxy S22 doesn't actually come with a charger, but this one supports 25 watt fast charging. And the Xiaomi 12X supports 67 watt fast charging. So the OnePlus 9 and the Xiaomi 12X, well, you can charge these ones in about half an hour from 0 to 100, where this one is going to take about half an hour longer. Inside these two, so inside the Xiaomi 12X and the OnePlus 9, we also have 4500 mAh batteries. And I do have the screen on time here. Now, keep in mind that I took these samples, basically I had the phones on Wi-Fi and I just had them playing videos for the duration of the battery. So with this one, the OnePlus 9, we get 8 hours and 21 minutes on one charge. With the Xiaomi 12X, we get about 8 hours and 8 minutes on one charge. And I have the same thing on this phone somewhere. So this one, I think we got about 8 hours and 57 minutes. So it is pretty insane that we can still get really good battery life from a device that's that old. And of course, much faster charging that you would get from a flagship these days. Moving on to the part of each phone that we use the most, and of course those are the screens, and we have three beautiful screens on these three devices. Here we have a 6.28 inches AMOLED screen, then we have a 6.1 inches AMOLED screen, and then we have a 6.55 inches AMOLED screen. They all have 1080p resolutions, and they all support 120 Hz refresh rates. So we do get really good screens on all of them. But my point was, even on the oldest device, which is the OnePlus 9, we do have a really nice looking screen. So I was just gonna open display here on all three devices, just so I can show you the refresh rate. So refresh rate here, here, and this one is under advanced, if I remember correct. So 120 Hz refresh rate on all three devices, and once again, as I said, this one is twice the price of this one, and this one is also more expensive than this one. Now, the maximum brightness on the Samsung Galaxy S22 is 1300 nits. That's the peak brightness. And on this one, the Xiaomi 12X and the OnePlus 9 is 1100 nits. So that's the peak brightness. So yes, if you do go outside in direct sunlight, the S22 will be a bit brighter than these two. But overall, these two still have really nice looking screens. Both phones have fingerprint scanners as well, and even though the OnePlus 9 is the older out of the two devices, still works just as fast as the 12X, and the same kind of goes for that S22, but it's a bit difficult since I don't have the third hand to unlock that phone as well. But yes, the fingerprint scanners do work great on both these devices. For build quality, I kind of feel that the Xiaomi 12X is the better one, mostly because on the Xiaomi 12X we have a metallic frame, where on the OnePlus 9 we have a plastic frame. So the way the Xiaomi 12X feels in hand, it does feel a bit more premium, I'm gonna say. But overall, the OnePlus 9 is still a pretty beautiful looking device. So at the top here, they both have second speakers, even though on the Xiaomi 12X you can actually see the holes for the speaker at the top. On the OnePlus 9 the speakers are on the front here. And the speakers do sound equally good on both devices, and I think that next I'm gonna show you a quick example just so you can see how good those speakers are on both devices. After listening to that again, maybe the OnePlus 9 does get the better speakers. Alright, and turning these around and looking at the camera. So even though the OnePlus 9 is a phone that's over a year old, I still think that the cameras on its back do really good. Now, you may not be able to get the same quality for videos that you would get from a flagship, but I'm gonna show you some pictures that I took, and well, pictures and videos that I took with the Xiaomi 12X and the OnePlus 9, just so you can get an idea what this older device can do when compared to a newer device. So here we have some pictures that I took during the day on auto mode. Now, talking about misleading marketing practices, of course, OnePlus tried to hype the cameras on the OnePlus 9 and the OnePlus 9 Pro like they're the best cameras that were ever invented. I can't say that the cameras on the OnePlus 9 are bad, but I don't feel they're the best cameras out there. I mean, if you do have a Samsung Galaxy S22 or an iPhone 13, I feel that those will do better than the OnePlus 9. So with a device like this, of course, there are some compromises that you may have to make, even though I feel that the cameras on the OnePlus 9 are still pretty decent. So maybe it's not quite a compromise because you can still take really good looking pictures and videos. So this was just an example so you can see how the pictures taken by these two devices would look like. Alright, we have a quick video test between the OnePlus 9 and the Xiaomi 12X. For this recording I'm using the main cameras on the back of the two devices and recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. Both devices can actually do 8K with the main cameras. The Xiaomi 12X can do 8K at 24 frames per second, where the OnePlus 9 can do 8K at 30 frames per second. But for this recording we are only doing 4K at 30 frames per second. We're gonna run a bit just so we can see how steady the image is while running. So both devices support image stabilization, this resolution. And we'll go this way. And I'm gonna stop here, I'm gonna pan left slowly. And then we'll walk straight for a bit. So 4K at 30 frames per second between the OnePlus 9 and the Xiaomi 12X. Performance-wise, well, most phones have gotten really powerful, and we do have more power and more RAM than we can actually use on most phones. So even if you buy this one that's a year old, or this one that's brand new, or the Samsung Galaxy S22 that's the most expensive out of the three, all phones are gonna feel equally fast. So just to give you an example, we'll open the YouTube app here. Let's scroll up and down. So as you can see, they both perform extremely well. Now, OnePlus devices are typically known to have the fastest UI. So I was kind of expecting that the OnePlus 9 would maybe feel a bit quicker than the 12X. But realistically, for day-to-day usage, most phones from a year or 2 years ago will feel just as quick. So buying a phone that's a bit old doesn't necessarily mean that you're not gonna have enough power for day-to-day usage. So to quickly conclude this video, even though new phones do seem a bit more trendy, you can easily find a phone that's 1 or 2 years old. And I'm not talking about used phones, I'm talking about a new phone that was made like a year or 2 ago, but still a new phone. You can find a lot of older new phones that are just as good as brand new phones that we get today, and they also have a lot of performance. They also have really good cameras, really good charging. So you should consider an older device as a way of trying to save money and not spend as much money on tech, because older tech is just as good these days. Alright guys, hopefully this video was useful. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.